The town of Riverton looked like a place where nothing bad ever happened. Tree-lined streets, front porches with rocking chairs, a courthouse that stood quietly at the center of town, more symbolic than functional. People waved when they passed each other. They always had. But beneath that calm exterior lived a question no one ever truly answered. For more than 30 years, one mystery followed Riverton like a shadow. It wasn't something people talked about openly, not anymore. But everyone knew, everyone remembered. They remembered the night when police cars filled Main Street. They remembered how the town held its breath. And they remembered how, in the end, nothing was ever explained. This is the story of that mystery and why it refused to stay buried. It was a Thursday night in early autumn when the call came in. A single 911 call, short, confused, then silence. By the time the first patrol car arrived, the street was dark except for one porch light still glowing. Inside the house, nothing looked disturbed. No forced entry, no obvious struggle. And yet, something was wrong. Within an hour, the street was blocked off. Officers moved carefully, speaking in hushed tones. Word spread fast in a town this small. By sunrise, Riverton knew. Someone had vanished, and no one could explain how. The first 48 hours were critical. Investigators knocked on doors, they interviewed neighbors, they retraced movements minute by minute, but every answer led to another question. No witnesses reported anything unusual. No security footage existed. No physical evidence told a clear story. It was as if the person at the center of the case had simply disappeared, without warning, without explanation. Behind closed doors, investigators began to disagree. Some believed the answer was simple. Others felt something didn't add up. That disagreement would shape the case for decades. Under pressure from the public and from within, the investigation moved fast, too fast. Assumptions were made. Timelines were accepted without challenge. A theory emerged early, and once it did, everything else was filtered through it. Contradictory details were minimized. Uncomfortable questions were postponed. Not ignored, but not pursued either. To the outside world, the case appeared active. Inside the department, something else was happening. The mystery wasn't being solved, it was being managed. In the days after the disappearance, nearly everyone in Riverton was interviewed. Neighbors, friends, co-workers, even people who claimed they knew nothing. At first, the answers sounded the same. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. It was a normal night. But as detectives compared notes, patterns began to form. Some witnesses hesitated before speaking. Others changed small details, times, directions, faces they claimed not to recognize. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just enough to make experienced investigators uneasy. Years later, one retired officer would admit something quietly. People knew more than they said. They were just afraid of being wrong or involved. Silence, it turned out, was one of the most powerful forces in the case. As the investigation continued, physical evidence began to surface. A personal item found far from where it should have been. A timeline that didn't align with known movements. A detail that contradicted the leading theory. Each piece was logged, photographed, filed. But instead of opening new directions, the evidence created friction. Some detectives believed the case was becoming more complex. Others felt it was getting messy, and that messiness threatened the original conclusions. So the evidence was acknowledged, then quietly sidelined. It wasn't destroyed, it wasn't ignored, it was simply left unresolved. And that decision would haunt the case for decades. As weeks turned into months, pressure began to build from every direction. The town wanted reassurance, local leaders wanted stability, the department wanted closure. Unsolved cases made Riverton uncomfortable. They challenged the image of safety the town relied on. Quietly, the message became clear. Do what you can, but don't let this define us. Resources were redirected. New cases demanded attention. Officers were reassigned. The investigation slowed, not officially, but practically. The mystery remained open, but momentum was gone. And in small towns, momentum is everything. One afternoon, the case file was moved. Not closed, not archived, just relocated. From an active desk to a cabinet few people opened. New officers heard about the case only in passing. Veteran detectives stopped mentioning it altogether. To the outside world, nothing changed. The case was still under investigation. But inside the department, everyone understood the truth. The mystery hadn't been solved. It had been set aside. And for years, longer than anyone expected, that's where it stayed. Time moved forward in Riverton, whether people were ready or not. Children grew up. Businesses changed hands. Streets were repaved. New families moved into old houses without knowing their history. But for some, the mystery never loosened its grip. Family members marked birthdays that felt incomplete. Holidays carried an unspoken absence. Every passing year deepened the feeling that something unfinished lingered beneath the town's calm surface. People learned to live around the unanswered questions, but they never fully escaped them. The case faded from headlines, but it didn't fade from memory. Even when official interest declined, stories continued to circulate. Someone claimed they'd seen something unusual that night, but waited too long to speak. Another believed a familiar face had been overlooked. A few insisted the truth was hiding in plain sight. Most rumors were impossible to verify, but a handful were disturbingly consistent. They pointed toward the same locations, the same time window, the same unanswered detail investigators once dismissed. In small towns, rumors don't disappear. They settle into the background, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Years later, a new group of investigators arrived, officers who hadn't lived through the original case. They saw the file without emotional attachment, without old assumptions, without pressure to protect past decisions. What they saw surprised them. Inconsistencies that had been normalized, evidence that had never been fully tested, witness statements that contradicted each other quietly. To them, the case didn't look cold, it looked unfinished. And for the first time in decades, someone decided to ask why. Reopening the investigation wasn't easy. It meant revisiting uncomfortable moments, questioning decisions made by respected figures, admitting that something might have been missed. But the evidence demanded it. With careful approval, the case was officially reopened, quietly at first. Files were digitized, witnesses recontacted, timelines rebuilt from scratch. For the town, it felt like reopening a wound. For the investigators, it felt like responsibility. The mystery that had followed Riverton for decades was no longer dormant. It was awake again. When investigators rebuilt the case from the beginning, one detail kept resurfacing. It wasn't traumatic, it wasn't hidden, it had been there from the start. A time discrepancy, small enough to ignore, large enough to change everything. When detectives compared original statements with updated reconstructions, they realized the timeline everyone had accepted simply didn't work. Someone had been in two places at once. That realization shifted the investigation instantly. What once looked like confusion now looked like misdirection, and for the first time, the mystery began to take shape. With the corrected timeline in place, everything else began to align. Witness accounts that once contradicted each other now made sense. Evidence previously dismissed found its context. Locations were revisited with new purpose. The investigation wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about understanding what truly happened. Slowly, patiently, the story rebuilt itself, piece by piece. What emerged wasn't chaos, it was clarity. As the truth became clear, difficult conversations followed. Past decisions were reviewed, missed opportunities acknowledged, not with blame, but with honesty. The department issued formal findings, records were updated, families were informed privately before any public statement was made. There were no headlines shouting scandal, just relief. After decades of uncertainty, answers, measured and factual, were finally delivered. The mystery that followed Riverton for decades no longer defined it. The case wasn't remembered for how long it remained unsolved, but for how carefully it was finally resolved. The town didn't celebrate, it exhaled. The investigation changed more than a file. It restored trust, reshaped procedures, and reminded everyone why truth matters, even when it takes time. Some mysteries end loudly. This one ended the right way.